Hi everyone, and I'm Shivani, your host. Welcome to the first episode of Beauty and Brains, a podcast about first girls for first girls. I'm really excited to introduce one of our guests today, but before we do that, I have one more reminder. Don't blink, the smart girls are talking. Okay, so our first guest for today is Ella Meyer. She's a 2024 Dean's List winner and now a freshman in college studying biomedical engineering. So, my first question for you, what FRC team are you from and where are you based out of?
I'm from FRC Team 7531, Cerebral Strike Back. I'm originally from Dubuque, Iowa, which is where my FRC team was. It's the corner between Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, but now I'm located in Ames, Iowa, where I go to Iowa State University.
Okay, so my first main question for today is let's take us through your journey a little bit. What got you into first or STEM in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first got involved in first with Lego League Challenge when I was in seventh grade. I was originally inspired to join because when I was in seventh grade, I was diagnosed with a heart condition called Marfan syndrome. And because of my heart condition, I was no longer allowed to play sports or lift heavy weights or do heavy exercise. And I saw Lego League and I was like, I might as well try it. My seventh grade and my seventh grade science teacher and my seventh grade math teacher were both the coaches for the Lego League team. So I applied and saw what happened. I made it onto the Lego League team and I absolutely just fell in love with it. I loved doing the innovation project. I loved seeing all the robots. I loved competing and working with all of my other teammates. It was so fun and exciting. So when I got to high school, I knew that robotics was exactly what I wanted to do. I did not know what FRC or FTC meant. All I knew was robots. And so I got into it and I went when they were recruiting members while I was still in eighth grade. And then I finally went to my first practice the summer before my freshman year. And I loved it even more than I loved Lego League. I realized that I loved doing all the mechanical stuff. I knew that I wanted to do something similar to the innovation project from Lego League. So I knew that outreach was kind of the path that I wanted to go. And I stuck with FRC all 4 years. And now here at Iowa State, I am the co-founder and president of the Robot in 3 Days Club, um, where I'm able to continue my first journey.
Wow, that's great to hear. So, along with that, being the 2024 Dean's List winner, do you have any major advice that you would have to me, a girl who's looking to apply, or anybody in general applying for Dean's List?
Yeah, absolutely. So for context, when you apply for Dean's List, your coach submits something for you. So they answer a series of a couple questions that have about a 500 character limit each. And then you go and you interview with judges to hopefully move on to the next round of being a Dean's List finalist. Some advice that I would definitely recommend. What my coach did is she just sent me a list of prompting questions so that she could fill out all the information. And then you just kind of let your coach take it from there. Review to make sure everything looks okay, but they, as an adult, they understand what the other judges want to hear. So you kind of just got to trust what they have to say about you because they can see it from an outsider perspective. And it doesn't make it seem like you're the one that's writing the submission. So in terms of submission, I definitely recommend doing that. I also recommend during your submission that you highlight all of the things to your coach that you want people to hear about. So if you had a really big project while you were in high school that you really want to show, if you mentored other teams, I was the lead mentor for the middle school FTC teams while I was in high school. If you have a really cool story about why you joined first and why you stay in first, if you have a cool job, even if it's not necessarily related to first, but you can kind of connect it all back to how you are being involved in first. And that definitely shines both in your questions as well as in your interview. When it gets to your interview, I recommend making sure that you know what your coach wrote about you inside and out. They have read those submissions, they highlighted all the things they want to talk about, and they made sure they understand everything that your coach said before they start talking to you. So they will ask specific questions and they will also make sure that your answers are consistent with your coach's answers, which is why it's so important to read your submissions. And if there's more that your coach wasn't able to say because there's such a small character limit, then it's really important to highlight that while the judges are asking questions. Within the interview itself, get into the interview, shake all the judges' hands, introduce yourself. They obviously already know your name, but it's still important to say it again. And then once you're in there, it's really intimidating. FTC and FRC are different. In Iowa, FTC, they do it as a virtual interview. In FRC, I believe for all regionals as well as district events, do it in person. So it really just depends, but it is very nerve-wracking nonetheless. And when you get in there, make sure that you answer their questions directly and you kind of tell them exactly what you want to say and you connect it all back to first. So, for example, when I was in my interview, they asked me a question that I wasn't expecting. I was only expecting like first and robotics related questions. They asked me what my favorite activity was outside of robotics. This year was 2024. It was crescendo themed, which is the FRC theme for that year.
Yeah.
And my favorite activity for that year was band. I loved it. I've been in band since I was in 5th grade because I'm a big fat nerd, but I absolutely loved being involved in music and finding communication skills that were beyond just saying words and finding something different and a way to express myself that wasn't necessarily mechanically or communicatively based. And so I told them exactly that. And I tied it back to first. I was like, and it's really important to me that I'm able to connect the different parts of my life back to robotics. So like, for example, with this year with band, it's really easy to tie it back to crescendo and kind of think of things in a certain way if I wasn't in band. So
yeah,
advice that I would give for both your submissions as well as your interview.
So how do you think like having that well-rounded and doing more stuff outside of robotics added onto your application and within Dean's List?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that being involved in things outside of robotics, just in general, makes you a more well-rounded person. And I think if you are a well-rounded person, it'll show within your submission and your interview. So when I was in high school, I was in a lot, but I was in band as well as symphony orchestra and the concert band, the jazz band. I did some theater stuff behind the scenes. I did speech stuff on stage. I did a couple volunteer organizations such as Silvercord, National Honor Society, Student Support Foundation. I had a job in high school, so it became a lot sometimes, but I think being involved in all of these different clubs definitely shows how well of a time manager you are and how good you are at scheduling yourself to make sure that you're still a student first before you're in all of these other clubs. So showing that you can be very versatile in everything that you're doing and that your life just doesn't revolve around robotics is really important to display.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you think that having leadership within the team that you're applying from adds on to your application, or do judges more of look for repetition and kind of dedication towards the team rather than a leadership title?
That's a really good question. I think that it definitely depends on your judges, which I know is definitely not the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But I think it's both. So when I was on the team, I was the media communications manager my freshman year. I was co-impact and outreach lead my sophomore and junior year, and then I was project manager my senior year. So, and then I was also involved in the build team my junior year. So it showed that I wanted to be well-rounded in all the different parts of the team, but I also could take on these leadership roles on top of it. So showing that you're dedicated through multiple different roles is important, both outreach and mechanically related, as well as showing that you are just a leader on your team in general. For example, in my interview, I was asked how I motivate my team members, so which was also not a question that I was expecting. So I gave the example that my team's favorite movie is Top Gun. So to motivate my team members, sometimes we play Top Gun music. If I can see that one of my team members has a bad day, I just make sure I check in on them. And so you gotta make it really specific to your team. You have to show that you know who your team members are, where you fit into your team, and that you can be a well-rounded and leader on your team at the same time.
Yeah. So I know that FRC teams are pretty big, and I'm sure you're not the only person who applied out of your team. What do you think made you stick out the most compared to the rest of your teammates, or even like people applying in your area?
So when you are applying for Dean's List at a regional, you go into your interview and I probably competed against around 30 other students.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pick two from each regional. I think what made me stick out the most is that I was a clear communicator in all of my answers, and I was able to both enunciate everything that was written in my submissions as well as add on to the things that weren't necessarily there. So my junior year of high school, before or after my coach submitted everything for Dean's List, I decided to I came up with a project that was writing a children's book to inspire young girls to be engineers. And since that was such a new project at the time of my submission, it was something that I wanted to bring up in my interview. And so I think the thing that made me stick out is that I was able to communicate all of those things. I was able to do it in a professional way. I shook all the judges' hands. I did a lot of speech in high school and a lot of improv, and so I think that definitely helped, is that I'm able to think very quickly on my feet for the most part. And so I think it also hit close to home for the judges because I submitted for Dean's List at the Iowa Regional, and I'm from Iowa, and so it's easy to connect back to their communities and places that they're familiar with. So I think that definitely helped a lot. I think at a world championship level, I'm honestly not sure because there's so many different things that go into it. When I've met the other Dean's List winners, they're such a versatile group. Like when I got there, I definitely thought that it was going to be like just outreach leads and just impact leads, but there was a lot of software leads, some mechanical leads, like people who already team presidents of their team or team captains or whatever, like I was. Like it was a very mixed group. And so I think the ability to show your individuality and that you're not just a member of your team or you're not just a member of First, and that you're really committed to this program makes you stick out.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about a little bit of your experience going to the World Championship and experiencing that like level of competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So my junior year of high school, I actually first qualified for Worlds myself when I qualified for Dean's List. So when you are selected as a Dean's List finalist, you are invited to World Championships. And then at a later regional, a couple weeks later, my team received the Engineering Inspiration Award, which also qualified us for Worlds. So I got to go with my team, which is really exciting. And then my senior year of high school, we received the Impact Award at the Iowa Regional. So I had the opportunity to go to Worlds both my junior and senior year, which was very exciting. I've never been to Texas before or any big city besides Chicago. So that was a little bit of an overwhelming experience. And when you're at World Championships, the first floor is just FRC plus like concessions. So it's eight huge volleyball court-sized fields stacked right next to each other with bleachers for thousands and thousands of people. And you keep going up the floors, and there's the Innovation Fair, there's First Tech Challenge, there's Lego League, and it's just so many people who are so excited about robotics. It's like the biggest nerd fest you'll ever go to. And it was so incredibly exciting. In terms of the actual competition, it was very intimidating. Like competitions in general are just very intimidating and very nerve-wracking, but you are put into a division that has 75 other teams in it who have all won Impact in EI, and they've won their robotics or their robot competition by being an alliance captain, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're on a whole other level. And my junior year was the first time my team had qualified for Worlds since 2019 because there was 2 years of COVID, and then we didn't qualify my freshman and sophomore year. So it was very, very new. And because when my team did qualify, they went to the Detroit Championships when it used to be split between Detroit and Houston. So it was a whole new experience for my coaches as well because they didn't know where they were going. And so I think that was definitely a big opportunity for me to kind of step up and make sure that we didn't lose anybody. Everybody ate their food. Everybody drank water. If people needed to be in the pit to fix the robot, I made sure that everybody had exactly what they needed. And the competition was intense and it was fierce. We did not end up in the rankings like we wanted to, but it's okay. We went for outreach awards both times,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's not the biggest deal in the world. But um, and it was really cool to see the diversity that was coming into World Championships. Like, even though Worlds is held in Houston in America, like, there's teams from all over the world. So you were able to see how low socioeconomic communities in different countries, or like developing countries, were impacting their community, which is super incredible. You're able to see teams from all over America and how they were impacting their communities, and it's genuinely, it's a life-changing experience,
Yeah.
and it's it's so cool to go to. And even if your team doesn't qualify, I know a lot of teams, like, if you're a senior and they like pay for you to go to volunteer, I think it's definitely an opportunity you take. If you go to Worlds, go to the innovation fair, where
Mhm.
there's so many companies and so many more robotics, and there's VR, and it's definitely a cool and um, life-changing opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like kind of like a nerd fest. Just like everybody's like involved in like what you have a passion for. So I feel like that's also like very motivating itself, being around people who have the same passion as you. And
Yeah.
like, um, when my team, my FTC team, when we qualified for Worlds last year, I remember visiting the FRC area, and it's just like the amount of excitement people have when matches are going on, like the chants that teams have, like the posters, like it's just like an amazing like kind of surreal surrounding to be in, like
Yeah,
yeah.
truly. And it's so inspiring to see
Yeah.
all of the other things that different teams are doing, both with their robot and outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, like seeing, like reading their posters that they have, and like seeing the amount of opportunities they're giving to other people, it's like really inspiring, definitely. Like, I remember like seeing a lot of like, especially old girls teams at Worlds, like seeing what the outreach is and like the impact that they have on their community, like that also is like kind of surreal to see, like wow, you
Yeah,
know.
it's incredible.
It's like a wow factor, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of all this amazing stuff and worlds and diesels and everything, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges you had to come over to get yourself to the point that you are at now?
Um, Definitely something that I've been struggling with recently. I've felt like that I'm just not doing enough, or I'm not smart enough to be in the positions that I am as an engineer, as a leader, even in a freshman at a university with 30,000 other people. It's something that I've definitely been struggling with a lot, in terms of not being smart enough or not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of insecurities that everybody struggles with. And it just feels like everybody else is ahead of you and you're just trying to catch up over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of felt like that in high school too. Like, I have the mindset of head down, work hard, and be better every single day. And it just kind of gets exhausting after a little bit. But I know that it's what I was put on earth to do, is to make a difference and to be an engineer. And so it's something that I'm definitely still struggling with and working through, and that I'm working on myself, and that knowing that I am good enough and I am smart enough to be here. And, maybe something needs to change. Maybe my study methods needs to be different. Maybe I need to approach these problems better. So I think it's really important that when you're struggling with these kinds of insecurities, it's important to just assess yourself and see where you can be getting better and how you can work to get there. Because sometimes it's hard, like, taking an inner look at yourself and saying, okay, what am I doing wrong? What's hurting others? What's hurting myself? Is it certain people? Is it the activities that I'm in? Am I really doing something that's making me happy? Is this class really going to get me to where I want to go? Is this truly my passion? And asking yourself those questions and making sure that you're truly in a position that you want to be successful in.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have another question, and obviously with all these amazing things that you're doing, you mentioned how time management is a huge thing. So within high school and like managing everything that you were doing, what's your biggest like um I should say suggestion or advice when it comes to time management and making sure you're balancing your academics, social, robotics obviously, and more.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely becomes a big big time commitment, big opportunities. When I was in high school, and now definitely utilize calendars. I'm somebody who kind of likes to schedule out my calendar hour by hour, minute by minute. So that's something that has been something really important for me to do, because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. I don't miss any meetings. I make sure I go to all my activities, all my rehearsals, and balancing that with social life is really, really challenging.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, it's definitely something that I struggled with, and something that I definitely lost friends over, which is something that's really hard to admit, but it's true, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because I was able to impact my community and do exactly what I needed to do. So that was always really challenging, but I knew that what I wanted to do is make a difference. So put everything in your calendar. Here in college, I'm the same way. I open my calendar and people think, whoa, because it has so many different colors. I've moved to Google Calendar, changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I can put my locations in, exact times. I can put my different tasks in for everything that I need to do. So I'm like, okay, I need to submit this homework assignment. I need to fill out this form for Robot in 3 days, and everything that goes on top of it.
Yeah.
I think when you move from high school into university or college, that it's really important to make time for friends and make time for connections and career opportunities, because that's what you're here to do. You're here to make lifelong connections, whether it's social or professional, and then make sure that you focus on being a student first. I don't know what it is, but here in college, I just have so much more time to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
I think it's because I live closer to them, and it's just like, oh, it's like a little quick walk over. And so, or they live down the hall, or we hang out in our den. So, even though it's hard to make time for socialness, I think it's really important, because it helps you grow so much as a person and makes you look at different perspectives. And I wouldn't have been able to start Robot in 3 days without meeting one of my friends who lives on my floor, who's now my vice president and co-founder. Like, there's so many opportunities and connections that you have to make sure that you make time for everybody else. But at the end of the day, you also just need to make time for yourself, whether it's 20 minutes at the end of the day scrolling on your phone, whether it's journaling, whether it's praying in the morning or night, whatever feels good to you, so that you're able to go out the next day and be better than you were the day before.
Yeah. So you mentioned Robot in 3 days. Do you want to explain what that is a little bit, and like your role and how you've been enjoying it so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew that I wanted to start a Robot in 3 days club at Iowa State. Even before I got here, I did some work over the summer with Penn State's Robot in 3 days team, as well as the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Robot in 3 days team, just looking for advice of how to get started and how to get going. Robot in 3 days is a club. That's exactly what it sounds like. We take the first robotics competition game that is released in January, and then we spend the day 0 designing and starting some prototyping, and then on day 1 we actually start building it, and then we finish the build within 72 hours. So it's a whole collection of people who come from different FRC teams, FTC teams, people who have no experience in FIRST. We need all different kinds of people, like running the cameras and building the robot and designing the robot and programming it, people who are able to pull all-nighters and everything in between. The goal of Robot in 3 days is not only to inspire high schoolers, which is the main goal, is to give them the resources and opportunities they need to build their robot within the 8 weeks, and showing them our mistakes and what not to do, giving them inspiration into how they can make our robot better. Our robot is supposed to be a final product and competition ready, but it is also supposed to be made so much better. So the goal is to inspire high schoolers, and then it's also to give university students a opportunity to continue with FIRST past high school. So after I got all my advice, I got another friend on it who's currently my vice president, and we were able to get the entire club set up within a couple of months. We were officially established as a club in late October of 2025. We purchased all of our resources, and then The game comes out for FRC in early January, which is when we are still on spring break. And so we all came in over spring break. We did some pre-build stuff a couple days early, and then we finally got going and we got our robot done. It's not exactly what we wanted, but we're also a first-year team who has a lot of barriers, I'm not afraid to admit, to come through, because it's really hard when you're coming from a lot of different teams who communicate in a lot of different ways, and teams who have had different resources over the years who we simply don't have, or we have a mixture of resources. And so that has been really challenging too. Currently now we have been planning a lot of different outreach events. So for example, we went to the Lego League State Championship held here at Iowa State, their STEM Fest. We're going to the Science Olympiad STEM Fest at Iowa State in a couple weeks, and we've been to lots of other stuff in between. Right now, so we're doing all of those outreach events, and then we're also working on training our new members. So there is a Club Fest that happens in the fall semester as well as the spring semester. So for us, it was a couple of months ago. And so we got to recruit some new members. We're getting them trained on all the different aspects of FIRST, because a lot of them don't have experience. And so I think it's really important to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So it's going really well, and I'm really excited to see how next season goes. We have some off-season stuff that we're doing with FLL and FTC in the fall, and so we're really excited about prepping and doing all of those builds before we do another FRC build in January.
Yeah. How are you enjoying the FRC game? It seems like a lot of fun with the hub and the different colors, and like the way they split up the time this year is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think that it's very, very interesting. I think that teams are definitely going to break 1,000 by the time we get to week 5 or 6, even before World Championships. So that's super exciting. I think it's really interesting because I feel like there's not a lot of different aspects to the game. Like you climb and then you shoot the fuels.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of creating a little bit of a lack of innovation, if I may say. Like I think that there could be so much more that goes into the game that kind of helps the robots be a little different from each other. But I also consider that even though a lot of the robots are similar, they're very simple, and it kind of comes down to like the programming and the coding aspect. Like how good is the mechanical team and the programming team working together? So I think that's a really good aspect that goes into it, and definitely something that FIRST has considered when they created the game. And so I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I think definitely the time thing is interesting. That would stress me out. I only drive coached a couple matches in high school, and you can't hear a single thing. And so you would have to really, really like lock in and pay attention on the different lights and hearing when it switches to your hub. And so that's been really interesting, especially strategy-wise. There were some strategies that were going around, and like maybe you should lose autonomous so that you kind of get an advantage, but what about the points and everything else that goes into it? What do you think about the game? I know since you compete in FRC, you've definitely been working on that.
I think it's like really interesting, and especially coming out of FTC, or like, and still kind of doing both like at the same time parallelly, like it's very different than what I've experienced within FTC. And with all the different times, I think it's becoming a very visual game. Like I feel like non-FIRST people are able to watch it and kind of enjoy it more. And I know it's kind of been called the Frankenstein game, and it's like all the old seasons kind of mashed up together in one major one. And I mean, I've been enjoying it so far. Within my FRC team, I am in machining, so mostly cutting parts out for our robot and seeing it come together, which is good. Actually, tomorrow we have competition.
That's super exciting. Oh my god. My hometown team, Servo Strike Back, they're at the Minnesota Bluff Country Regional right now. So I've gotten a lot of phone calls from them to see how everything's going, but I'm really excited about the path that they're going on.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that they kind of made, I don't know if you've seen the FTC game, but they made it like very parallelly, like with the FTC game and the shooting, and I think shooter games are really fun to watch, so... And I agree with you, it's a very strategy-heavy and programming-heavy game, where it's allowing a chance for, you know, rookie and new teams to succeed, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to the wire, it's coming down to programming and strategy and, you know, working as well as you can with your alliance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It reminds me a lot of the game that was my freshman year. My freshman year was 2022 Rapid React,
Hmm.
and it was very, very similar. There was different game pieces for both the Red Alliance and the Blue Alliance that kind of made things difficult, but it was very similar to the hubs where there was one on each side of the field and one was red and one was blue. And then
Yeah.
there was also a climb that looked like monkey bars, so you kind of had to traverse climb for that too.
Hmm.
So I think it's definitely very interesting. I think it's
Yeah.
playing off the rebuilt theme, like you said, it's going off of old games, so that's what's
Yeah,
great.
and I think that like the climb for the rebuild is almost identical to last year's Into the Deep FTC climb, which is crazy like how they did the mashup like that, and
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
really interesting to see like um, from an FTC perspective like FRC robots adapting like kind of what the FTC robots have and like seeing that Frankenstein aspect too is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we are coming down to the time that we have, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. And your story is going to help inspire many girls, especially with all the incredible advice you gave about Dean's List. And I just want to say to the viewers, make sure to follow Beauty and Brains for the next episode, and we'll meet you an incredible girl in STEM. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, reach out. We love hearing. And thank you so much for listening. See you next time. And just one more reminder before I let you go, don't blink because the smart girls speak the most. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.